We're now fully back into Power Rangers Beast Morphers, and it feels good. We continue with Intruder Alert, Episode 10. Though it's Episode 11 if you count Boxed In as Episode 8 instead of Episode 21, but episode numbers aren't really that important this season. Let's talk about the episode itself. I should mention quick for any new viewers that I have seen every episode of Beast Morphers, and that while I will reference things in terms of how they might amount to the series, I won't be spoiling anything about that, if that makes sense. So, the episode opens with Nate referencing a message they got the previous week. I don't think I was the only one in immediately thinking that I had missed them getting a message the previous episode, but then realized that they didn't. They just introduced the whole "we got a message last week" thing in this episode. It kind of seems like a missed opportunity to not end the last episode with them getting the message, but it's not a big deal. They learn that they need to protect the Earth from Ryjack, who Gavan is mistaken for. For those of you who don't know, there's a big, long explanation behind the appearance of Captain Chaku. In 1982, Toei produced a show called Uchu Kiji Gavan, or Space Sheriff Gavan. It was popular enough that they made 2 sequels and a series of follow-ups. Gavan, its sequels, and its follow-ups are grouped together in a series called Metal Heroes, which ran into the mid-90s. They previously appeared in the US in the Saban shows VR Troopers and Big Bad Beetleborgs. Without going too far into detail, in 2012, V Cinema, the production company behind the annual Super Sentai Versus series, was in a predicament. The current season, Gokaiger, known in the US as Power Rangers Super Megaforce, was the 35th anniversary season, and so Toei had already made a Gokaiger vs. Gozaiger movie as an anniversary special, so they needed a replacement. So instead they brought back Gavan for a Gokaiger vs. Gavan movie. That movie did well enough that it started somewhat of a resurgence for the Metal Hero series, leading to a Gavan movie later that year. As promotion for the movie, there was a 2-episode crossover with Go Busters. So there was a lot of question over whether those episodes would be adapted for Beast Morphers. We knew it was a possibility because another Metal Hero series, Jiraiya, did a crossover with Ninja that made it into Ninja Steel. When some brief synopsis of this episode came out, a lot of people thought it might be Gavan, but it wasn't until this came out that we knew for sure. This episode is able to have that work pretty smoothly, so they end up taking this thing and putting it in the Ranger Vault for safekeeping. I think it's nice that they're keeping the Ranger Vault relevant in the show. They totally could have just brought it up again when it was convenient, but the fact that they're keeping that around for continuity is pretty great. But there is a bit of a problem I have with the device. It looks like a translator, and I thought that's what it would be, but it ends up just being a battery. I understand they couldn't have him wearing it because of the Sentai footage, but nothing about this really screams battery. I also think that it makes the Rangers look stupid when they just assume it's a weapon and keep away from it without even attempting to figure out what it is. At the very least, it would have been nice for Nate to want to examine it, but then have to leave to fight Ryjack so someone else does. Then maybe during the battle, whoever's working on it, Ranger comes in to say it's not a weapon, it's a battery, which really throws them for a loop. I don't know, it's not a huge thing, just something I thought I'd mention. So they end up fighting Ryjack, who introduces this device that can bring back past monsters. Clearly, this was there as setup for the Dino crossover, so they can bring back past villains. It is a bit Deus Ex Machina-y to just introduce a device that brings monsters back to life, but the fact that they introduced it a few episodes in advance sort of makes up for it. But there are plot holes to it. First of all, when he resurrects Vargoyle, why is he orange? None of the other monsters they reanimate in this episode, or any episodes following, have a change in color scheme for no reason. Also, Ryjack says that they need to have something belonging to the monster they want to reanimate in order to reanimate them. While they do that with Vargoyle in this episode, they don't do that with the Putties or the Vivics, so what gives? And without spoiling anything, in later episodes the same thing happens. Sometimes they need something belonging to the monster they want to reanimate, and sometimes they don't. It's a little weird. But overall, this episode is okay. In retrospect, it feels like setup for the second part, which is admittedly a lot better. It's not a bad episode, save for some logical mishaps and some editing oddities, like Zoe grabbing Chaku before Devon's communicator goes off, and Nate and Steele's Sentai footage being clearly slowed down so they could talk for longer, but I enjoyed it. What did you think? Let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Bye.